Hello, friends. Bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Colo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co-host is David, aka Premier Pulls on social media.
Hi, everyone. On today's episode, Jen explains the Grain Festival, also known as Lughnasadh.
Welcome to the show. Grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share. You'll never feel alone.
I am very excited to start covering the Wiccan Sabbaths.
Yeah, I have no idea what this episode is about. When you first mentioned, you've been excited about it. When you first mentioned it, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna talk about this for 45 minutes, but it sounds like there's a lot to learn, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we covered like a few, like we covered Halloween and its origins, but I'm excited to cover all of them now that I have my handy dandy Sabbaths workbook, the Wheel of the Year, made by Zia from Infinity Coven,
That's
who is
awesome.
our guest next week. So,
I'm so excited. Y'all,
Yes.
I'm getting way ahead of myself, but you're gonna love this episode.
yeah.
What's really interesting is we're recording like out of order, so we've recorded the Zia episode like a while back ago now, but just thinking about it makes me so excited.
Yes, yeah. So if you want to order a copy of Wheel of the Year, it has all of the history, all of the deities associated with it, even like different crafts and tarot readings and journal prompts. It is so good. So now I feel more confident with some good sources to start covering the Wiccan Sabbath. So go to Infinity Coven and order yours today. But yes, today we are going to talk about Lughnasadh.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
about what you said, but also just a little bit of housekeeping before we go in. The first thing I want to talk about, this is an episode a couple episodes ago. It was an experience exchange with Krista. Mm-hmm. What a great episode, right?
Yes.
I was so happy to see her reaction. You went to the ladies at launch the day that it dropped. So talk about like serendipitous.
Yes.
Call back to our episode on serendipity. Great
Yeah.
episode. But can you share a little bit about that experience? I think it's worth like sharing that with our listeners.
Yeah, it was so nice to see that Krista loved the editing and approved it and just shared it everywhere, even LinkedIn. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then it was so nice to have ladies at launch that same day because, we were talking about different things and I was like, oh, that's covered on the podcast, or, everyone there just loved Krista. So it's like, if you want to genuinely see her story, like go there. And I didn't realize that she was like, yeah, I'm opening about some of these things for like the first time. I was like, wow, what a privilege.
That's what I want to talk about. I didn't realize that. Obviously, I'm behind the camera, so I was there when it was recorded, but we have a lot of wonderful guests, and thank you and shout out to all the guests who have agreed to be on our podcast. We really appreciate you opening up and having the space. But it was super interesting when I heard her episode. I loved it. I thought, wow, that's great content. But then when you came back to me with that information, it made it even a little more special because, like, what an honor, right? To have somebody choose this platform to tell their story and be open and vulnerable. And, I thought that was great. And then kind of going back a little bit to next week's episode with Zia, another great episode, right? So we're getting to the point where it's just like an honor to be able to interview all these wonderful people and learn about their life and their practices and just kind of be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another really quick housekeeping thing is I have to fulfill a promise that I guess I did not follow through with. It's super late now, but I was talking to one of our wonderful listeners, Mercy, and I guess at some point I promised that I was going to give her a shout out for her birthday, which was May 10th, 2025. So it's a little bit late, but happy birthday, Mercy. So hopefully she's listening to this. What's really interesting is that while we're recording this, we still, we're way ahead of schedule. So this is still going to air months after she told me hey, you didn't shout me out. So huge shout out.
Yes. But
I had a question of something you mentioned, so I don't want to forget it. So you said that with this grain festival, you said we've covered a few. Now, you mentioned Halloween. I didn't know that was a Wicca Sabbath. I thought that was more like a pagan religion. Will you get into that, or can we ask that now?
Well, anything that's not like Abrahamic is considered pagan.
Correct. But you said it's a Wicca Sabbath.
Wiccan is pagan.
Well, okay. There's different. Paganism is just a rejection of like the Abrahamic religions, right? So
Yes.
different things can be pagan, not just Wicca. Right?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
So, but this is specifically, or Halloween was specifically like a Wicca thing?
Well, it has its origins in like Celtic culture, but it was adopted into Wicca as like an important milestone.
I see.
Halloween is also called Samhain,
Yes.
which we
okay.
covered.
Episode like 3. Speaking of, I've gone back and I'm doing the YouTube.
Yes.
And so if you are new to our podcast or have been with us from the beginning, if you go to our YouTube and check it out, it's really cool. Like the artwork is updated, the episode titles, and they're very enticing. So if you want to re-listen, like it's a good time. But sorry, it was just a callback to our Halloween episode.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so the Wiccan Sabbaths are like the other pagan holidays, like either if it's Germanic or Celtic or something, like that existed first. Wicca existed second, but Wicca has adopted certain milestones and they're like, we're going to put this in the Wheel of the Year.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And the Wheel of the Year follows the seasons, so there's a lot of overlap. So
And
like
Halloween is one of those?
yes.
Oh, okay.
So the solstices and the equinoxes, there's 2 of each. So that's 4 plus Samhain and now the Grain Festival. Like I think we've covered at least 6. I don't know if we covered all the solstices and equinoxes, but we've covered.
We're
a
missing
few.
a winter equinox. Or is it a
Winter solstice,
Is it a winter solstice?
aka Yule.
Yeah, we're missing that one.
Okay,
I know that
okay.
for a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna start covering them. We did all the signs, and now we're gonna do the Sabbaths.
That's
So,
awesome. Okay.
yeah.
All right, let's get into it. Enough distractions.
Yeah. So Lughnasadh, also known as Lammas, also known as Loaf Mass Day. It is the middle point between the summer solstice and the fall equinox, which is on August 1st.
Okay, middle point. Interesting. I feel like we just talked about the summer solstice, but that's not true. Like by the time this episode comes out, it's like we've had so many episodes in between. And that was an interesting concept of the summer solstice. So this is the midway point, correct?
Yes. So it's starting to show the transition from summer to fall, even though honestly with global warming we're not going to feel it. It's like still hot, but like in theory it is like by time if you divide like days and stuff. But it symbolizes the first harvest of the year. That's why it's called the Grain Festival. And it also celebrates one of the pagan Sabbaths and the Celtic god Lu. That's where the name comes from.
Okay.
So this is Celtic in nature. So Lu is the god of craftsmanship, the harvest, and abundance. So around this time, and we're in an agricultural area, so we're definitely going to start seeing it. Like people can finally start harvesting things. I know that there are things that like grow in the winter and all these other things, but a lot of things like to grow in the spring and be harvested like between summer and fall. So grain is one of the things that is done a little bit sooner. So you can start harvesting that. You can start harvesting a few fruits and vegetables. So it's just to symbolize the abundance of the hard work, but also to start keeping in mind that winter is coming. So while you are abundant now, there will be famine, or not famine, not so harshly, but
like shortage. Basically.
Shortages later. Yes, because the winter is kind of brutal.
Yeah, famine is like where nothing
Yeah,
goes.
no, my bad. Wrong word.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just thinking of like the extremes. There's a Bible story of like, I think it was King Solomon that was like, there's going to be famine in 7 years and people didn't listen to him or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting how as humans have developed that, right?
Yeah.
Biologically, mammals are kind of an interesting breed. Reptiles can kind of burrow and be okay. Fish obviously like freeze in the lake.
Bears hibernate.
Bears are mammals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But with mammals, we have to plan ahead because we store like fat that gives us energy, and in the cold months like keeps you warm and survival. Obviously, this doesn't really apply to like modern days because now we can have like fresh raspberries in like the middle of December. But through evolution, it sounds like these things, well, it doesn't sound like these things were important. And I'm curious, like, if these festivals and these traditions and these rituals sprung from that, just to like symbolize the importance.
Absolutely.
Because if there's no, you know, food, like, you're kind of fucked. And humans are very like weak compared to like, you know, the surrounding animalia in the world. The only thing that makes us like stronger or like more dominant is like our bigger brain size, and then just like some dexterity issues. Yeah, but not much. I mean, it's not a lot, but then it is a lot, right? Because we were able to basically be the top of the food chain with just a little bit bigger gray matter.
I was just thinking, what if dogs had thumbs? That would be a game changer. Anyway. What goes on in my brain. But yes, so celebrating, yes, that like art imitates life, spirituality imitates life. Yeah, this is definitely because of human nature, and it's like, let's celebrate it, let's make it a little more fun in the beginning. But yes, the god Lu, god of craftsmanship, the harvest, and abundance. But if you would rather not go Celtic, if you would rather go like Greek Roman, then you could also celebrate Demeter and Kore, aka Persephone's spring summer form, are also honored during this time, because Demeter is the mother of Persephone, and she is also celebrated and associated with abundance, and Persephone's arrival during the spring equinox. That's why everything like blooms and thrives, because Demeter is happy to have her daughter back. And then during the fall equinoxes, that when Persephone returns to hell with her husband Hades, and then things start dying because Demeter is sad. So
I feel like we talk a lot about Persephone. Like, it's not the first time she's come up in our podcast.
Well, I work with her energy. It's a complicated relationship, which I think we've covered in like other episodes. But yes, it's like an archetype that I like to work with is Persephone.
Do you think then that's, and I'm not saying that this in a bad way, I'm just like in a neutral way, like, do you think that gives like bias to our content, that maybe you're
Absolutely.
gravitated towards certain deities?
Yeah, but this was also in Zia's book, so.
Okay. No, I'm not calling you out, I'm just literally curious.
No, yeah, of course. But yes, yeah, like I said, reaping the rewards of what you harvest, but also planning. So some activities that you can do, you know, grain festival, what do you make from grains? Bread. So
Alcohol.
Oh, I guess so too.
That's what I literally off the bat. That's what I thought. I was like, you know, make alcohol, beers, meads.
Also true.
Yeah.
Also true. Well, harvesting your grains, making bread. And it's so funny because recently I've been inspired. I'm like, I kind of want to start making bread.
Oh, I did not know that.
Sourdough. Sourdough seems really complicated, although I do love a good sourdough. But just like regular bread, I think this is going to be a good time to maybe try it. So, cool. You know what? Maybe I will.
Just stay out of my kitchen, please. I think we need to share with the listeners. A little side tangent, but it's a good story.
Yeah, a little side tangent. I've been just wanting to experiment more in the kitchen, and the other day I wanted to make a lemon poppy seed cake.
You wanted to make bread?
Yeah. I've been a carby girl recently, and I was cooking up a storm, and I didn't realize how long it was going to take. So I was cooking and baking for like 4 or 5 hours. So
it was late into the night.
Yeah, I started like at 8 and I finished like at 7 actually, and I ended like at midnight. But yeah, I made a lemon poppy seed cake from scratch, like fresh lemons, all-purpose flour, the works. I also made a glaze, a frosting, and then our own condensed milk to like pour on top of it. So yeah, I was going hard for no reason, but it was delicious and it was fun.
Say what I said.
Oh yeah.
The next morning.
The next morning, I cleaned up after myself, but I told him about like basically something exploded, and I was like, I had to clean this up. That's why I went to bed late. He was like, just stay out of my kitchen. And I'm like, but when you're eating my cake all happy, I don't stay at the kitchen then. Anyway.
I was force fed.
But yes, we're atypical in that he likes to cook, and then I would rather do the cleaning.
Yeah, and I mean, for transparency, the kitchen is set up for like my workflow and not so much yours. Like, it's really a joke. Obviously, it's our kitchen, but I know it does become like territorial. It's just like, these are my things.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna make bread.
Perfect.
Deal with it.
Jokes aside, maybe we should make bread for the festival. When is it? August 1st?
August 1st, Friday.
Ooh, August is busy for us.
Yeah, because we're Leos. Yeah. Harvesting things from your garden if you have an abundance of like tomatoes come around at this time, herbs. If you have too much of something, like you're not going to let it go to waste, what are you going to do?
Trade.
No, you have to keep it for yourself for when things are scarce. So like,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So like making it into something else, freezing, pickling, making preserves, like that's another thing that people can do during the grain festival, because it's like, I have a bunch of summer tomatoes now, but I'm not going to have a bunch of summer tomatoes in a few months. Maybe you can make sun-dried tomatoes, and that's like a way to preserve them, or, you know, bases, whatever. Picnics and grilling, being outside, enjoying it, and just sharing food with loved ones. It's a social holiday.
Okay, so who like practices it?
It's like the pagan Celtics from back in the day, and now like the Wiccans, but of course, the Catholic Church as well.
And I know we'll get into that a little bit later.
We always do.
Is there any? I mean, like Halloween took a life of its own. I know, like kind of Easter was also one. I don't think we've covered Easter. No, we did briefly in the spring equinox episode, but this one didn't pick up too much mainstream, right? Other than probably Wiccans.
Wiccans and the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is a more like underrated sort of holiday.
One thing I do want to maybe clarify or get your opinion on. So it sounds like it's time for festivity, right? Mm-hmm. But then it also says like prepare yourself for the winter. So when I asked about like trading and bartering, a little bit of an interesting dichotomy of like, hey, let's celebrate, let's enjoy abundance and come together. But then in a way you're being also a little bit selfish of like, but I also have to like make things that are going to make me last into the winter. So what is like the correct ideology? Like share your abundance, or just come together and like work to create a stockpile?
There's no like hard and fast rule that I saw, but I just think like modern times, like sharing, making something yourself, or just trading. But back in the day, yeah, maybe people did have to barter. Maybe they did say like, what am I going to do with all these fucking tomatoes? Yeah. Like, oh, you've got some basil over there, let's trade. Like, that just makes sense.
And that is essentially how like civilization came to be, even with nobility, right? Mm-hmm. It was like, at first everybody was just like small tribal hunters and gatherers, right? People went out to hunt, and people stayed back to like care for the young and gather. But as we started industrializing and becoming like societies, it went with like, well, the fishermen in the village are able to get fish, and then the farmers are able to get like grain and fruits, and eventually like they would trade and come together, and that formed like hierarchies of like, well, these are the people who own the land and like are able to harvest more throughout the year, so then they became nobility, and then those are the like in a long stretch, not overnight. But it's really interesting how hierarchies can form through fulfilling the basic needs. Sometimes I do think about modern days, and it's like we have all these jobs that back when we first started becoming civilized, like would never have existed, right? Like, what is a TV repair person? But as a society, we find a way to like support each other sometimes. But it all does go back to the initial like, these are my goods, this is what I have in abundance, and how can we cooperate to like have unison and symbiosis between us and create like a thriving society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think the nature of the holiday is like nowadays, like right now, is like spiritual fulfillment. So that's why I'm like to share. But obviously, if you have like a bunch of something and you want to trade, trading is great. Like there are so many people I see like on TikTok that's like, I wish we had a local like buy nothing group or a local like trading group. Like I love bartering.
Yeah, bartering's great.
Yeah, back in the day when we used to live in Santa Barbara County, I would barter for like everything. I didn't have to pay for any beauty services. Like I bartered for my nails, I bartered for my hair, I bartered bartered for my facial wax. Like, it was so cool. And we have a lemon tree now, and this is the first year that it's gonna give fruit. So if we have like too many lemons that we can't use, definitely like want to give some away or barter with them for sure.
Or make things and then give those away, right? As you get older, the like homemade gifts I think become more sentimental. When you're a kid, you want the toys for Halloween and for Christmas.
You want the toys all the time.
But now if I think as adults now we do like Secret Santas and gift exchange, but I think like a homemade thing is always it's more like appreciated.
Oh yeah.
If I got like a jar of like jam, I think I'd value it more. Somebody gave us like limoncello one year. Do you remember who that was? You were working at PPF and it was like a gathering.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It was one of our like big donor sponsor people that worked for Deckers. Yes. Yeah. So I used to work for a pride organization when we lived in Santa Barbara County, and there was a person that loved to make limoncello, like fresh limoncello, and yeah.
And I'm not going to say who, but they were a chef or a very famous celebrity. Like I'm talking like an A-list like pop star.
Yeah.
Which was super cool because they made dinner for us, and I could see why they were
It was very delicious.
Yes, it was very delicious. And then like as a parting gift, they made like homemade limoncello from their tree, which was super cool.
Yeah, and this episode or this holiday, August 1st, is one day before my birthday, August 2nd. Yes. So we are going to be celebrating in a similar way. We're going to have a few friends. It's a very intimate gathering, less than 10 people. And yeah, we're going to have a bonfire and have some food.
Do you know when this episode airs? Like what date?
It's the last Wednesday in July.
Okay.
Because August 1st would be Friday, and then August 2nd would be Saturday. So yeah.
Preparing, It might be cool, like, if you're out there and you have, like, a community, especially a lot of people that do listen to our podcast, they know are creators, just gathering with your friends and trading or bartering or...
Making bread.
And
making stuff.
Making and breaking bread is
making and breaking bread. It's all
really good community. So cool. Awesome. This festival you said originated from Celtic culture, right?
Celtic paganism, yep.
I'm sure though a lot of different cultures and religions have like a similar thing, just because the nuance of like collecting your grain and harvest is universal. It doesn't just fall under this like westernized society of like, this is our grain, right?
This is different than the harvest moon because the harvest moon is the full moon nearest to the fall equinox. So this is like the beginning of the harvest, and then the harvest moon is the end. Like, you gotta harvest your shit now because it's gonna freeze. Yeah.
And I don't know if you're gonna talk about this, but with this festival, since it is like venerating like gods and certain like deities, is there offerings that are made?
Yes. Yeah. So some people like to redo their altar, and then like the color scheme to go for is gold, green, orange, yellow. So sticking to those stones like green aventurine, citrine, yellow jasper, carnelian. Those are all stones associated with the season right now because it's a lot of like grounding. Those colors are like on the bottom half of the chakra levels, and then also just having to do with like the fire energy of Leo season and this time, and then grain obviously is like a yellowish color. Yellow. Yeah, so people do that. They also light different types of incense that are more like herbal based, like sandalwood,
and these
cinnamon,
are
sage.
Offerings or more like tradition?
Both.
Or not tradition, like rituals?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can like just light it to celebrate, or you could light it in like to thank like Lu or Demeter or something. Yeah, so you could do it either way. Some people, because it's like you could start harvesting some corn, make like corn husk dolls.
Oh, is that where that comes from? Because I've seen that.
I don't know if that's necessarily like why it exists. I think a lot of people just make corn husk dolls for different reasons, but that is one of the crafts that you could do around this time.
This is an interesting thing that I mentioned of like traditions, because in Mexico, like in Mexican culture, especially like kind of even like our parents' generation, I have heard like anecdotally of like there wasn't money for toys, so they would make toys with like little dolls and
Yeah.
corn dog. And then like even Jack's was, all you needed was a little rubber ball, and then you could play with like rocks and stuff. I always thought that was like cute and interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't you say your dad made his own toys?
He was very crafty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with the bread, if you actually make bread, like, you could like draw into it. Yeah. A lot of
That's
cool
right. You can like put designs into it and switch it up.
Yeah. And obviously, like, you could take a piece and leave it on your altar or just be like, thanks. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear more about the pipeline from paganism to Catholicism. I think this is a theme that's been across a lot of things.
Definitely a through line.
So let me know about it after this message.
Today's episode is brought to you by us, Kythera Collective. If you've been vibing with the energy of the show, then you're going to love the Kythera Club over on Patreon. It's a space that I built for the cosmic, the curious, and the slightly chaotic. You know who you are. With 3 delicious tiers to choose from, we start with the chocolate level at $4 a month, which gains you access to weekly horoscopes and the exclusive Unhinged podcast, where I say things that don't make it to this main feed. It's sweet, it's spicy, and it's just for you. Next, we have the cafe level at $7 a month. This is where things really start to get cooking. You'll receive access to exclusive workshops, monthly virtual hangouts, and a private Discord community where you can chat directly with me and receive exclusive behind-the-scenes updates. It's magical, cozy, and a little unhinged in the best way. Finally, we have the tequila level. This is the VIP lounge. At $25 a month, you'll receive everything from the previous tiers, plus a personal 15-minute one-on-one session with myself or David each month, and discounts if you want to extend the session. It's a whole vibe and a powerful way to receive personalized guidance. So if you've been laughing along with us, crying, or rage screaming in agreement, come hang out with us at the Kythera Club. Head over to patreon.com/JenCallo and choose your tier. If you want to sponsor an episode and advertise with us, go to our website, www.jencallo.com. All right, now back to the show. Welcome back. So now we're going to get into my favorite part, seeing how the
pipeline.
Seeing the pipeline. So when I was in AP US history and world history, there was the 3 G's. They were like, this is why the Spanish and Catholicism like spread and conquered different places. God, glory, and gold is always a through line. And so I was like, there's just too many similarities. Like, there's got to be a quote from the Vatican that explains like why they do this, because at this point with the internet, it's like irrefutable. And I actually did find a good quote, which I'm not excusing it, but at least I'm like, this makes sense as to why the Sabbaths and the Catholic Church are very, very similar. An Italian missionary is not sent to make his new people Italians, nor is the American to convert his constituents to Americanism. They are sent to make Christians world citizens, so long as the native customs and habits were not in opposition to the law of nature or the law of God. They were not to be taken from the people.
Yeah. You know what? And like, I'll be frank, and I mean, I'm not a religious person. I'm an atheist, and so I don't really give a shit. We've been very blasphemous on this podcast. It's a business, right? It's a business, and I think, kind of a callback to our episode with the Millennial Saint. Like, at a certain point, things do get stagnant. People become self-aware. People become more skeptic, and they want to like understand the thing they worship. It's not hard for me to understand, but we don't have this. We've talked about this in our personal life, like, how nice is it that we don't have to wake up on Sundays to go to church? But, we laugh at that, but there's people who is like, it is a big part of their life, and it's like, they can't even imagine a world where they're like not part of their church, part of their religion, worshiping the God that they worship. But at the end of the day, it's like anything else, right? The human brain is very fickle. We get bored, we start, we can only be force-fed so many things before we start questioning, no matter how devout of a like person you are. So these entities, these businesses, these organizations have to keep it fresh and have to keep it like modern and like appealing. The thing with like the Catholic Church specifically, they do that, but then another way to control the masses is fear, right? So it's like it's like that cool like parent, like, oh, like I'm gonna let you drink alcohol, but like only do it at home. But and then on the other end, like they're gonna punish you for like coming home late. So it's this really interesting thing that at the end of the day, it is a product, right? Mm-hmm. The church needs to make money, religion needs to make money, and if they weren't making money, they wouldn't be here anymore.
Yeah. And again, we always say we do have respect for the people that are like, I need this to fulfill my life. I think it's one of those things where it's like, if it brings you peace, cool. But when you're trying to oppress other people, that's like when I just can't. And like, I grew up, I know that there are different like priests that will have different takes. The priests I grew up with, and especially going to Spanish mass versus
so
English
different
mass,
than English.
night and day. Spanish mass is like, you're going to hell and you're a sinner and you suck.
Yeah. Give me money please.
Money please. I just couldn't continue to be in a place where they were-anti-LGBTQ, like anti-pro-choice, and gonna get a little personal, but I was a victim of a violent crime. And at this point, I was a Catholic, and I went to the confessional, and I told the priest, like, I'm a victim of a violent crime, and I don't know what to do. I want to go get therapy, but I'm like, is the church okay with that? And they said, pray 3 Hail Marys, you'll be fine. And I'm like, why do I have to pray if I was the victim of a violent crime? So just after that, I was like, this is not for me. If it's for you, if you have a good priest that is like victim centered, like good for you, but I'm not like all of this is not to affect you as the person and be like, you're dumb for believing this, but I'm gonna poke holes where I see them as a whole. But you know, if you're okay with like a flawed system, again, as long as you don't oppress anybody, like, I respect you.
Yeah. No, and same. I think we've talked about it, and like, you appreciate the campiness and the gaudiness, and you know, it's a good product. Like, at the end of the day, it is a good product. I could, you know, think of like, you know, I want this car and maybe it's out of my price range, but just because I can't afford it or like it's not for me doesn't mean like they're not doing a good job of like marketing or like, you know, pushing their product out there. Mm-hmm. We got a little bit of a tangent, but I do think it's important, right? And I don't know. I agree with you that like I don't lose respect for anybody who is religious, because it's a battle you can't win. And the equivalent is like in modern times and like even secularism, I think we're also a victim of like capitalism, right? So we fall for the ads, we fall for like, you know, the social media posts that are like, oh, maybe I do need that, or I should go get that. And it's a constant battle that you're fighting as a consumer, as an individual, versus like multi-million-dollar companies who like literally pay millions of dollars to understand the psychology of a consumer and say like, we're going to target these people in this way to get them to buy our product. The church is not any different. And this ties perfectly into it. This quote of like, you meet people halfway and then you bring them to your side the whole way.
Yep. So this ended up becoming Loaf Mass, or the Feast of St. Peter in Chains.
Of course it did.
Yeah. And so the newly baptized pagans brought their bread to be blessed at the Loaf Mass, is a quote of like how they were like, hey, we have the Eucharist. Same. Come on. Yeah. So yeah, that's what they did.
If it wasn't so sad and so like oppressing, it'd be like funny, because you're like, how are you falling for that, right? Yeah. But it's...
Well, it wasn't just like tomato, potato. It was like tomato, potato, or else.
Yeah. You have no, no recourse for that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the Feast of St. Peter in Chains. That's the other thing. So fucking dramatic, right? All these martyrs. Like, you go into Mass and there's just Jesus half naked hanging bloody from a cross. And it's like, you expose yourself to that every single Sunday. And at a certain point, like, even in your subconscious, it probably has to take some sort of, like, effect on you. But Feast of Peter in Chains. Why was Mr. Peter in Chains? What kind of kinks was he into?
I didn't go that far.
Okay.
But something I did want to mention is like when I consciously said I'm no longer a part of the Catholic Church. I didn't go through like any ritual to be like unbaptize me or anything, but just like when I made that conscious decision, I was sad to be losing the like, oh, there's like Palm Sunday, there's Good Friday, there's whatever, like the seasonality. It's like, oh, I wish I had some equivalent of that. And now I'm seeing that like
you do. Yes. They stole that from what you believe in now.
Yes. So now I'm like, I'm going to like the OG version of it.
The source material.
So yeah, that was one thing that I was like, I miss like the ritualism. I miss like working with the seasons and doing like all the special like celebratory magic things. And now I am doing it. So that's great.
One thing about us, as much as close as we are on this podcast and like the thing that we show to the world, which we are, like this isn't fake, we do really kind of stay in our own lanes. This is when we get to come together and talk about these things. You do all these things and I have no idea that you're doing them. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw her do like a spell or a ritual or you know, she says she's celebrating all these great things. I haven't seen a single one. I don't doubt that you're doing them, but we stay so in our lanes in these things. The only time we come together is on this podcast just because it's not my interest. So, you know, but I also, I'm never shitting on you for like practicing, you know, your own beliefs and practices.
Funny story. This morning he was like, why don't you ever do spells for us? I'm like, what do you mean? Of course I do. And he's like, what?
Yeah. I was going to say something about Catholicism, but I lost it. So maybe it'll come back to me.
No worries. But while we don't, unless you are in agriculture, we don't really have to worry about like an actual literal harvest. So just some sort of like questions to reflect upon, maybe even do a tarot pull for during this holiday. What can I harvest in my life and how can I practice gratitude?
Yeah, I think these are great questions and I'd love to just take a whack at answering them. So I can maybe start. What can I harvest in my life? I think for me it's like tranquility and peace. I do really try, you know, how you try to do abundance, for me I try to do like peace. I feel like there's so much noise and I think sometimes I personally get caught up in the like the daily living, and finding moments of respite for me are really important. And that's something, it's not like a tangible thing, but to me, I think it's something that I would like to harvest more and really put stock in. That's the thing that sucks. Even when you're trying to relax, like you have to practice it. Like nothing comes for free, but maybe that's what makes it more rewarding in the end. And then how can I practice gratitude? I think I do a good job of that, but there's also always work to be done. I feel like the people that are very close in my life, I do take the time to spend with them and acknowledge them and let them know how much I care for them. But one thing that like I've always kind of done on the surface level is like gratitude for like my fellow man and you know, supporting the community that I live in and practicing like, you know, those acts of like selfishness and giving back to the community.
Yeah, for me, I think that I've been scared of like hosting or like actually doing anything. But this month I'm challenging myself to host like 2 social events with David for our friends. And also because I turned 30 this year, I normally don't celebrate my birthday like that, but this year I think I want to go big. So, I'm doing 2 birthday parties, one by myself and then one joint with David because we're 2 weeks apart in terms of like August 2nd and August 16th. And then also I haven't had a chance to tell you this, but I also want to book a 30s photo shoot.
Oh, yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that.
Speaking of bartering, do you know anybody you'd be interested in doing that with?
Yes, but I can't barter with them. However, they did give me a good price, so I'm excited.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that more in detail later. But yeah, so what I can harvest in my life is the ability to bring people together and not be afraid to host and to make it a little bit about me because this is such a special year. And then how can I practice gratitude just by realizing how many people are in my corner. Like, we have a joke about like the haters hate to see me coming or something like that, but like I don't really have any haters, and if I do, I don't really see them. I got the hater blockers on. But yeah, just instead of like focusing on the haters and the ops out there, like,
you have zero ops out there.
I know, it's a joke. It's a joke.
It's the LA in you. It's the Inglewood in you.
Yeah, I know, chronic haters in LA, but
zero haters in LA.
But yeah, focusing instead on who loves and supports you.
What's that thing? We're watching Love Island, and by this point it'll be done, so we don't know who's won or not. But what does Amaya call herself?
Sensitive gangster.
Sensitive gangster. Yeah.
I love my girl Amaya Papaya.
Also, if you watched Love Island, let us know because we are huge fans.
Yes. All right. So, what do you think about the Grain Festival?
I think it's interesting. I kind of look at it through an anthropological lens, and I have mentioned this to you. And there's an episode that's coming up that I've requested because not that we've lost sight. I think our podcast grows and molds, and we adjust to it as we move. But it is a project for both of us. And while Jen does take the spotlight, there are some times that I feel like there are things that I want to talk about and like incorporate into your learnings and the things that you teach me. All that to say, like in this case, like I want to focus, for what I gathered more from this, and like what I found more interesting was like the anthropological parts of it, right? Like, why do we celebrate grain festivals? Like, why specifically grain? Why specifically food and harvest, right? We could just as well as, like, celebrate, I don't know, friendship or, celebrate, like, births or fertility, which there are things for those parts of life. But this one specifically, like, why back in the day did we as society think it was important to venerate these gods who we thought were assisting in festivals, and just the survival and the biology of like, we're going to celebrate because we know hard times are coming. And even that as a concept, as like a sentient being is on a higher level than other animals, right? Like, we have the wherewithal to understand that, like, if we prepare now, we'll be ready for later, right? But the way we manifest these things is super interesting. We could have just been pragmatic and be like, all right, guys, like, let's bring the tribe together. Everybody put their grades together. Let's start making the bread. Let's start, preserving it. But no, like, as humans, we're also social creatures. So that intersection of like pragmatic, but also like celebrating like our social norms is really interesting. I think if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Of like, we need to prepare because it's part of our survival, but we also need to celebrate it, which I don't think many other people do, or any other animals do. What do you think about that? Just like the science and the anthropology of it all.
Yeah, I think that like joy, art, and celebration is what makes us different from the other animals in the animal kingdom.
Yeah. And then lastly, it's sad. I know we joke, but yeah, just kind of the appropriation, right, of like, we have these beautiful like traditions. I think what's really nice about our lens is we're able to like see things at face value, so we don't value Catholicism over like paganism. To us, it's more of appreciation of the rituals, and like you said earlier, like, there are things we appreciate about the Catholic Church, but what's really cool is like we're able to see both of those things and see like the beauty of it. But what's sad is like, yeah, like the Catholic Church comes in and essentially like appropriates, and it's like, well, now you worship me, and like, it's a little manipulative, and I think that is sad. And sometimes I do look at a lot of cultures who are very into like the Catholicism and maybe like don't realize like the full history, right? Like a lot of Mexican like cultures or Mexican people are very devout Catholics, right? They're very, very devout, and like, you won't convince them that there's anything else. And I feel like, this is just my opinion, that they get a sense like it's always been like that. And it's like, no, like, you come from beautiful culture and beautiful backgrounds and beautiful traditions, and like, this entity came in and either by force or by like appealing to your ancient traditions, like, converted you. And now, not that you don't have an identity, but you've given so much to this entity that you've lost roots to, you know, the cultures and traditions, like these grain festivals that you came from. And then what makes things even worse than that is when then they themselves start like having that inner hate of like, I don't know, we could get really deep, but it's just like, you go to mass and the people that look like you know, celebrated different things not that long ago. We're talking about hundreds of years ago, which is, in the big scheme of things, is not that big. And like, you could still have these beautiful traditions, and because of no fault of your own, like somebody came in and changed your traditions. I don't know.
Yeah.
If that's too much to like talk about. But.
I know. I was like, I could say a bunch of stuff that my family has said, but I'll save it for the unhinged.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I think about personally. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's cool to celebrate. But you have a couple things here on our agenda that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so to close, I just want to give a shout out by the time that this episode ends, or by the time that this episode is published, Erica, Janet, and Mercy will have been 1 year with the Patreon, so supporting this show and giving it that energy exchange for 1 year. So thank you so much for being a part of the Patreon, the OG members. It's been truly magical, so thank you so much for your continued support. And even if you have ever supported like with a 1 month membership, or even just liking and sharing the content, thank you so much to everyone, because without your support, you know, I don't know if we could have made it this far. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, a lot of people give like their shout outs, but like, and not saying that they're not genuine, but for me, like, we really appreciate it, right? Those are people who have like been with us from the beginning and like still continue to support us. It's incredible and amazing.
Yeah, it warms my heart. Like, wow, y'all believe in this so much that like you've been on the Patreon for 1 year. Just like, wow, that warms my heart. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
But yes, if you'd like to get in touch with us, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Blue Sky at Jen Kahlo and jenkahlo.com. And if you like this show, rate it and give it 5 stars wherever you're listening.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening and watching.
Yes, remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place. Blessed be, and signing off. Bye.